Hi there, welcome back to part 3. Hopefully you made it. This is the tough part. This is the part where you go through the paint and get to the metal. Basically what happened was, one particular day things just got on top of me. So much so that I couldn't cope. Rachel was at work, but was due to finish just after the lunchtime, and the kids were being rowdy and fighting, and all three wanted something different for lunch. One wanted pizza, one wanted sandwich, one wanted spaghetti hoops or whatever. I've just had a sip of tea and I've done it again. I shouldn't have done that. I do apologise. But still I'm drained and I'm exhausted, and doing 3 dinners was like, oh, why can't you understand that I haven't got the strength to do it? And anyway, I did it. But as time wore on, I found myself struggling to breathe. You know, I was not hyperventilating, but it felt like the whole world was crashing down on me, and I've got to get out, I've got to get out. But I couldn't get out because Rachel was at work, and you can't leave young kids, you know. So I thought, oh, I'll go for a walk to the shops to get some cigarettes when Rachel comes back, you know. And I was counting the time, counting the minutes for her to come back, and almost immediately as she came through the door, I had my coat on and I said, I'm just nipping to the shop to get some fags. I smoked roll-ups predominantly due to the cost, but as a treat, once a month I would buy 10 cigarettes, because that's all I could afford really. And she said, oh, okay. And I went to the local spa, and 2 things happened that never happen. I never wear a coat, ever, unless it's hacking down with rain. I'm always hot because of the medication I take. One of the side effects, I'm always hot, and it doesn't take a lot for me to sweat. I even sweat in the shower on a hot day, it's horrible. But I never wear a coat, so why did I have to wear a coat that day? And I went to the shop and I bought 20 cigarettes, and I never did that, you know, never, because I look at it as I'm taking money away from my kids, that amount of money. But I bought 20 cigarettes, and walking back I started to feel a bit better, you know, feel a bit of a lift. And where we lived, in Skegness we lived, but where we lived there were not alleyways or passageways from the main road that winded through onto the nature reserve and then onto the beach. And walking back I saw one. I thought, oh, I've not seen that one before, I wonder what's down there. And I walked down there. This was at about 12:10 in the afternoon. 1:15 in the morning, I'm up to here in the gorse bush. Now I don't know if you know what gorse bushes are, but they're like thorny branch bushes, and the thorns are huge sharp things like that. And I looked at my watch, it was 1:15 in the morning. Now I knew I'd not had my medication that day, any of it, because I was doing the bare minimum, because I was so tired and doing the kids things, and it just slipped my mind. It happens quite a lot, not so much now, it does on occasion, but which is crazy because you take some of the medication to keep alive, but sometimes you're just absent-minded and I don't take it. Crazy. Same with insulin. Sometimes I don't take it. Sometimes I don't do a blood sugar test. I'm doing them now on this trip. My blood sugars have never been better. They're averaging at about 6 to 7, which for me is unheard of. You know, normally my stable blood sugar is about, oh, anywhere from 11 to 15. But anyway, I digress. It was 1:15 and I was extremely confused, like, why am I here? What's going on? Why am I wearing a coat? And the kind of funny thing was behind where I was standing in this gorse bush, it was like the beach, part of the beach, but it was the beach that was in, I can't think of the word now. It's not the main beach. You've got the main beach, then you've got the grassy area, but within the grassy area there's patches of beach. But there was a big semicircle, perfect semicircle, that was like a natural semicircle. It wasn't made at all. And I looked at that and I thought, that's weird. That's weird. And the first thought that came in my mind was, have I been abducted by aliens? Is that where the ship was? Is that what's happened? Is that why I've lost all this time and got no memory of it? That was the genuine thought process. I thought, that can't be right. It can't be right. So I'm stood in this bush thinking, how am I going to get out? And I was so weak. I had nothing to drink. I was so weak. I thought, oh, I'll have a cigarette and just try and get myself together. Opened my packet of cigarettes and I'd smoked 10 of them, or lost 10 of them, or whatever, I don't know. But I got no memory of having any of them. So I was a little bit miffed at that, thinking I'll never buy 20, but you know, half of them are gone. So I stood there trying to get my bearings, and everywhere's pitch black, obviously. I don't think there's a moon that night. Well, obviously there's a moon that night, you idiot. But it was not a full moon, you know. There was hardly any natural light, natural moonlight. But I could see straight out. There's all these lights. I thought that must be a village that's nearby called Winthorpe. But it wasn't. That was where I was looking, was out to sea. I thought, how am I going to get out of this gorse bush? But I managed to fight my way through and I made it to the path. I thought, right, I know where I'm at on this path, because we used to walk the test along this path, and there were beautiful walks there on the nature reserve. I thought, well, I need to go left because that's the way back to the house. Now, as I said, there are numerous alleyways leading back onto the main road and the rows of houses. There must be about 20 between where I was and the house that we lived in. And as I'm walking and dragging my legs, they're like, you know, I was walking like Douglas Bader. Those who don't know Douglas Bader, he was a World War II pilot who lost his legs, so he had tin legs, and he would drag his legs. Anyway, I was dragging my legs and I was so thirsty, and I thought, how the hell am I going to find this alleyway that's my alleyway in the dark? But miraculously I found it, first time. And as I'm walking down, I thought, oh, finally, I can't wait to have a drink and sit down. And as I approached the house, I could see my sister-in-law's car there. And I thought, why is she at our house at this time, 1:30 in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning? I thought, that means I'm in trouble. I've done something wrong. What have I done wrong? I didn't know what was going on. And I stood there and I thought, I can't go home. I can't go home, because if I go home, Rachel said if I did one more thing, then that was it. And I just stood there for about 10 minutes thinking, have I done something? What have I done? What has happened? And the next thought that came into my head was, as ludicrous as it was comical, I looked down at the bottom of the road, and there was the road running parallel. And on the other side there was a hedge, and in the hedge I could see a couple of rabbits. And I thought, I'll go and live with the rabbits in the hedge. That was my thought process. Fortunately, Thomas, my eldest, saw me stood outside, and I heard him say, he's here. And I turned around and thought, oh, this is it. I'm going to get, in trouble, and Rachel's going to be cross. Anyway, Rachel opened the door and I walked in, and I was trying to say, I'm sorry, I don't know what's happened. I don't know what's happened. And my legs gave way and I just collapsed, and she gave me a hug and said, it's all right, I'm never going to leave you. It's all right, just glad you're home safe. And I basically shut down then. I was sat on the settee, and the police came, because obviously the police had been notified that I'd been missing. they'd been to the shop and they'd seen the CCTV footage of me buying the cigarettes, but they didn't know where I'd gone after that. But there'd been appeals on the radio. At that point when I was found back home, they were just about to send up the helicopter. The dogs were out looking for me. Police dogs were out looking, searching in the dunes for me. Dunes, that's the word I'm looking for, dunes. But yeah, and it's very heartwarming and touching, because afterwards, a few people I spoke to, like my best friends Martin and Scott. Martin was a bit upset because he got woken up at the early hours of the morning because an appeal was on Links FM, and a member of his family heard it, said, "Tim's missing." And Martin's first thought was, "Bloody hell, I've got to work soon, and you woke me up." But his brother Scott was like, let's go to Skegness, and they lived in Lincoln, which is about 45 miles away. Let's go and see if we can find him. And Martin, being the sensible one, said, "We're never going to find him that way, you know. The best thing we can do is just be here, so if he wants us and needs us, he knows where we are." And one of Rachel's friends, her partner has a history of mental illness, and he said to his girlfriend, "I know where he is. I know where he is, because I've been in the situation he's in now, and I think I might know where he's going to be. He'll be in the dunes." But he didn't come. Basically, something that talked you through and said, you know, he could be anywhere. But anyway, the police came and they were saying things like, "Oh, were you on your own? Has anybody hurt you?" And I was basically just sat there staring into space thinking, I don't know what's happened. And they gave me a drink of milk with loads of sugar in it, and I was just exhausted and drained. I was like strung out basically. I had a load of hydrocortisone and tried to bring me around, and you know, I was just in a mess. A psychiatrist came and he said, "Look, I don't want to admit you to I don't want to section you, because that place is awful, and you know, you're not in the right state to be taken there. You know, you'll end up being worse basically. But there is a place that we can send you, and you can go. It's a safe house. I can't remember what they call it. There is a word for it, but they also call it a safe house. Basically, where it's you're monitored by care staff basically, and you get your own room, and you're allowed, or you're afforded time to be in an environment where you have no pressure or no strain on yourself." So it was agreed that I would go there the next day. One thing that sticks in my mind that thankfully jolted me back to my normal self, a lovely policewoman sat me down and was talking to me about what had happened and things, and she said, "Mr. Niner," she said, "I don't want to come back," and I might get emotional here, just to warn you. Don't know if I can say it. "Mr. Niner, I don't want to come back here and tell your daughter her daddy's gone away and he's not coming back. And that hit me like a sledgehammer, like it does now. But that like snapped me to think, right, I'm going to get this sorted out. I'm going to beat it, because that is never going to happen. The next day, my best friend Martin took me to the safe house, and when I first got there I thought, this is horrible. There's people there that have issues as well. There was a particular guy who was very vocal about his feelings on certain things. He was clearly very disturbed. I hated it and I wanted to leave straight away, but I thought, I can't, I've got to try and get this sorted out. I hadn't eaten for 2 weeks, not eaten anything. I couldn't eat because every time I put something in my mouth to eat it, I would retch. and I thought, well, you've got to eat to survive. I think there's going to have to be a part 4. I really do. I'm sorry. So when you're there, you have to write down some goals that you want to achieve. And my first goal was to get up at 8 o'clock every day and have a shower, because that's a massive thing to do when you're suffering from depression. You've got no motivation to do anything. The second thing was to eat at least half a Weetabix for breakfast. That was my only goal, food-wise, for that day. And that was my goal for the first 3 days. I stayed there for the full week in the end. And in the end, I liked it there so much, I didn't want to leave. But I liked it so much because there was no strain, or I had no responsibilities to do anything. But that's not real life, is it? You know. And anyway, I managed to eat. I managed to train myself, like with the phrase, feeling sick is not being sick. And that's how I managed to retrain myself to eat. And there are occasions where I struggle to eat to this day, and I go back to that routine. I have a routine that, right, for breakfast, half a Weetabix, because I don't eat breakfast normally as a rule. But if I find myself that I've not been eating for a while, or eating properly, like I'll only eat at like 10 o'clock at night, I think, right, I need to get the regimentation back, half a Weetabix to start with, you know. And once I have that, I think, right, I can have the other half, and then probably another one, and then it triggers then. The next step is boiled eggs. You know, you have your Weetabix for breakfast and your boiled eggs for dinner, because that way it's a hot meal and it's simple and easy, which is what you want to have in those situations. Sandwiches are great as well, you know, beef paste sandwiches, love them. So that was the eating side. The mental health side, we'd have I can call them counsellors that would come, or therapists would come, and you'd speak to them, and they'd devise programs for you and offer you coping mechanisms, and you know, how to deal with things and how to retrain yourself. And I felt fairly okay and ready to come back. At this point, I was still very scared of doing something that would cause me to leave the planet, because I was scared of myself. Because I'd experienced situations where I wasn't in control of me, and that terrified me, because I didn't want to leave the planet. You know, I didn't want to leave my kids. I didn't want any of that at all, and that was a concern. But when I came back from the safe house back to home, I began treatment with my second therapist, and things started to improve from there. So I'm gonna have to do another part, I'm afraid, but it'll be the last one, because Tesco's has opened and I need to use their facilities, and I want to cook breakfast because I'm starving. All right, I shall speak to you soon, hopefully, and hopefully keep subscribing and sharing and doing all that good stuff. The more people that hear of my story, hopefully can realise that there is help out there, and more importantly, you're not on your own. Thanks very much for watching.